I was going to tell an important story, one about how coastal Louisiana loses about a football field of land every 30 or so minutes. The land and the people are literally sinking. And though I do think that story needs to be told, I'm going to focus on what it means for me to tell you a story. I'll share the self-defeating thoughts that stifle my voice, and how I fear criticism. Mostly I'm scared of presenting information that I haven't yet owned. I'll struggle past hearing the sound of my voice over and over and over again, and I'll share with you my knowledge of what it means to be a storyteller. Laura Sims admitted that it's brave to speak openly, and it's been a struggle for me to open up and share for the majority of my life. Telling stories about myself forces me to be seen. Sometimes being seen elicits criticism. I grew up under the inattentive eye of my mother. I learned at a young age that most of what she said was embellished, altered, or completely fabricated. She unintentionally taught me how to excel at fictionalizing my own stories. To avoid being seen or criticized, I lived my life telling stories that averted my audience away from the truth. Growing up with a single parent who lies all the time is confusing. Instead of trusting anything she said, everything she said became a lie. I lied to cover up her lies. On my quest to uncover what it means to be authentic, I'm constantly questioning what is real. Have I fallen into the same delusions as my mother? Is the discomfort I feel when I open up intense vulnerability? Or because I'm trying too hard for sympathy? I must learn to silence my inner critic who silences me, the critic that tells me I have nothing profound to say and that I have no novelties to share. Another concern I have is context. How do I fraction off parts of my story? Every moment is built upon a previous moment. Fragmenting does injustice to my past, to my audience, and to the story as a whole. How do I find balance and focus in storytelling? I'm trying to remain mindful of the effect I may have on my audience with my exploration of story. I'm worried that I'm unfocused or too shallow or maybe too deep, or that I'm in competition to tell the best story. I'm apprehensive to show how difficult it is to tell an authentic story. I'm anxious knowing I have to let go of a bit of control so that my audience can better connect with me. At this moment, like many others throughout this class, I'm fighting the urge to vomit on the floor right next to me. I've spent my entire life scripting and planning and controlling and guarding. The stories I told reflected my ability to think quickly and utilize humor and wit. Instead of telling people how dysfunctional my past was, I created silly scenarios and made people laugh. I convinced everyone, and even myself, that I was an extrovert. Eventually my act stopped fooling people. I stopped telling stories because laying in bed all day seemed more appealing. That or drinking so much that I'd black out. I had successfully squeezed out any sense of who I really was, and found out that it's only a matter of time before your stories and your ghosts catch up to you. Mickey Houlihan said that our culture stops our stories at a wound. But he questioned, what happens after the wound? Who do we become after being wounded? And how do we put ourselves back together? This tattoo is on the inside of my left upper arm. I got inked on February 18th, 2013, and it's not finished yet. My skin apparently rejected too much of the ink, and I have to go back and get it touched up. But that's not the point. I want to tell you about the tattoo, and I want to tell you why I have the tattoo, but then I realized that every story leads to another story, which leads to another story, and I have to stay focused. So I'll explain my tattoo. The text is Sanskrit. The word on the bottom is the word for the heart chakra. It symbolizes the consciousness of love, compassion, and empathy. The heart opens up to a drawing of the earth. The universe was too big and too dark to make for a good tattoo. But the idea of the planet is to represent everything. Life, matter, cells, atoms. The quote on top of the earth has numerous translations. My favorite is, "I am that." Putting all three components together reminds me to keep my heart open, because I am inherently connected to all that is. I am part of everything. Mickey Houlihan also acknowledged that by being wounded or ripped apart makes you whole. And Ai Weiwei acknowledged that maybe to be powerful means to be fragile. To get at our narratives and to find ourselves requires sacrificing our pride, our stubbornness, and even our safety. Self-acceptance comes only when we acknowledge the shame, guilt, fear, pain, and even darkness that is part of the human condition. Fragmenting ourselves and presenting fiction or half-truths denies our character. It denies our strength and our voice. To become whole, to acknowledge our wounds with our strengths, is to see that black and white are perceptions skewed by our minds, and that gray matter, the whole picture, is where the most powerful stories lie.